Odds are you know Bill Gates as one of the co-founders of Microsoft, one of the world's largest tech companies. He's gone on to venture into many other businesses, recently making headlines back in January for becoming America's biggest owner of farmland. However, that was just a coincidence, as farmland is included in his investment portfolio, or so he said on Clubhouse. People have also pointed to Gates, who in the past was accurately on the money when he said he wouldn't be surprised if there was an airborne epidemic in the next 10 to 15 years. That was back in 2015, so does this guy know something we don't? Maybe he's a time traveler, or maybe he's just incredibly smart. Either way, today on Life's Biggest Questions, we're asking, what if Bill Gates froze himself for 1,000 years? Smash that like button, let's get into it. Bill Gates is a very smart man. Aside from obviously being a tech whiz to the point that he's partially responsible for the incredible advancements in technology that we've seen, he's also interested in finding ways to positively impact the world forever. What do I mean by this? Well, given the tens of billions of dollars that Gates has, he seems to primarily focus his spending on finding ways to use sustainable energy as well as combat climate change. Now, with all this in mind, it's clear he's a smart guy with a lot of intelligence and focus in the right place. And he could help a society 1,000 years down the road, more so than I could, that's for sure. So let's say Billy Boy here decided he was going to cryogenically freeze himself for 1,000 years, similar to what they do in Futurama. Now what? Well, hold on, Buster, it's not as simple as that. First, let's talk about cryogenic freezing in the first place, what it is and if it actually works. It's referred to as cryonics and is defined as, I quote, the practice or technique of deep freezing the bodies of people who have just died in the hope that scientific advances may allow them to be revived in the future. So the idea here, obviously, is that if people freeze themselves properly with the help of trained professionals, then they'll be able to preserve their bodies physically, including their organs, and eventually get resuscitated after being thawed out. There's a lot of skepticism in the scientific community if it actually works, and given with how little interest or funding there is behind it, a lot of cryonic companies dating back to the 70s have since gone out of business, which have resulted in them thawing out and disposing of the bodies they were in possession of. So there's that. But let's say Bill Gates does end up doing it. The way it works is immediately after death, as in you're clinically dead, the body needs to be cooled in an ice bath. The blood will then be drained and replaced with an antifreeze fluid to stop ice crystals from forming inside of said body. The body is then put in ice and transferred to one of the 3 facilities in the US or the one in Russia. There's only 4 facilities worldwide. It remains there until science improves, or in Bill's case, 1,000 years later. So now what? Well, I think the most realistic answer is by this point, the company or idea of cryogenics is no longer a thought, and Bill's body was disposed of long ago, likely decomposed, and is now one with the earth. It's possible they're still in business, de-thaw Gates as his 1,000-year time limit is up, and are unsuccessful in their attempts to revive him. Of course, the third option is that it actually works. This would likely mean that Bill Gates would be the first person to legitimately time travel, something that has been an intriguing topic of discussion for decades. Now, depending on how far technology has come, it's possible Gates isn't the first to have been brought back after being frozen. As of this recording, there are about 250 frozen bodies in the US and 1,500 people waiting for their day to come, if you get what I'm saying. So maybe someone else is resuscitated within the next 1,000 years, and Gates comes back to the year 3031. If cryogenic freezing were to be a normal thing, for lack of a better word, then Gates may be nothing more than an experiment gone right. He'd most likely be the oldest person in the world at the age of 1,065 years old, given that he's currently 65. And again, this is under the assumption that anyone else who had been successfully frozen and brought back was under 65 years old. But if the whole freezing thing was normal, then Gates coming back after 1,000 years would be headline news, most likely, but I don't think it would be anything regarded as a breakthrough. Well, aside from being the oldest cryogenically frozen corpse to come back. It'd be exciting for society and science, but I also feel like the world would be in such a different place. The excitement over someone coming back to life after being frozen for 1,000 years wouldn't be that big of a deal. I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out. If we think about what's happened in the last 1,000 years, dating back to 1921, the world has gone through the Great Depression, World War II, the internet, cloning, landing on Mars, social media itself, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. The incredible achievements in technology from the last 100 years alone is insanely impressive. So to wonder what life will be like in the next 1,000 years? Well, I really couldn't tell you, but something gives me the feeling that bringing anyone back after 1,000 years of being frozen is going to be cool, but not nearly as big of a deal as it'd be in our present day. Still, that's not to say that Gates wouldn't bring any value to his new home. They'd likely want to study him, obviously for historical reasons, and try to understand more about life from 1,000 years ago. For Bill, well, things would be very weird. He'd likely be treated almost as an experiment the rest of his life, and potentially could regret deciding to freeze himself in the first place 1,000 years back. Maybe he'd be regarded as like an alien of sorts. Now, as always, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one down below. What do you think society will be like in 1,000 years? And do you think we'll be able to bring back cryonics? Let me know down below. For now, let's reply to some comments from the video. What if we have a global deep freeze? Exo Revolt said, shower thought. Do you ever just wonder why W is pronounced W even though it's two V's put together? I've wondered who named the brain. Like, the brain named itself, but like who decided that's what we're gonna call it? Because like someone had to think of it with their brain. Like the brain named itself. People don't talk about that enough. It really it blows my mind. B. Burgess said this would be really scary and it would suck, like a lot. It really would suck. Like I hate the cold. I live in Canada and like it's snowy right now outside. I hate it. It sucks. Glenda Carpenter said Sub-Zero from MK would love this. That gave me a really cool idea. Do you guys want to see like what if we did like a what if Sub-Zero fought Scorpion from Mortal Kombat for a video? Let us know. I'm kind of down to do that. All right, guys, that's all for this one. We'll see you soon. F me. The body is then put in an ice. Yeah, is that where it's put? It's put in an ice. This whole video is just me just screwing up. And again, this is under the assumption that anyone else that had been I can't. I'm just making the text bigger. It's like the text is small and then it goes too fast and then the one doesn't even matter. We're ahead now. Yeah, I can't even finish the video, eh? Okay. Just one of those videos, you know? Then they'll be able to preserve. Where am I? Can we start the whole thing? Okay. See, but like now I put it at 24 and it's barely. I hate this app. You guys are probably enjoying this struggle from here, aren't you? All right. Where was it? Then they'll be able to preserve their bodies physically. Is that even where I left off? Okay, I'll go from the idea. This just is not my video. Which have resulted in them thawing out and I'm about to punch my camera, man. God, I swear to God, man. Like, it's not even funny anymore. Now I'm just getting angry. It is kind of funny, but I'm also getting very annoyed. And I'm sure you can see it in the video.